Good
Good
morning,
morning,
good
good
afternoon,
afternoon,
and
and
good
good
evening. I
evening. I
think I'm
think I doubled here. Let's do that. Okay, so that should be better. Hello and welcome to Everything Schooling, and we're going skilling. I like it, homeschooling. We learn skills at home, and today we're going to be talking about everything counts. If you find yourself saying, my kid only wants to do this all day long. If I didn't tell them what to do, they'd just do this. It matters. It counts. And we're going to talk about that. So I hope everybody's here and ready for an exciting time. 30 minutes of great information. And if you're here on the replay, please let me know where you're from in the comments. Hello again, and here I am. Okay, I'm just seeing some notes here. Hello, Bhavna. Nice to meet you, and glad to have you here. And today we are talking about everything counting. Everything matters. Everything your child does is somewhere on a scale of importance to what they need to learn. So, this is also called eduspeak, and interpreting what a child does, or a teenager, or anybody, into something that is valuable and important for their future life. And I feel confident talking about this because I have 5 girls and 1 boy of my own, and I have experience with many other kids. So I have seen this in action, and I want to be confident and encouraging to all of you that if you find yourself saying, oh, all my kid does is dot, 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 it matters. It counts. It has value, and it will be important in that child's life and possibly in yours. For instance, I'm going to give you an example of how my 2-year-old daughter was more aware and curious and knowledgeable than I was. And we can all see this. We all have these stories. So share your stories with me in the comments, please. So My little girl was in her paddle pool on the deck, and she called me, and I came running, and she was so excited. She was, "Mommy, Mommy, you have to see this. You have to see this." And oh, that's wonderful. You're Bhavna. I'm hopefully saying your name the right way. Please forgive me if I'm not. Um, so she was so excited about what she wanted to tell me. She was sitting in the paddle pool and she had a rock in her hand. And she looked at the rock and she looked at the water and she said, "Watch, Mummy." So good, good, thank you. Um, so she threw the rock into the water and looked at me for a response. She wanted to see what my reaction to her throwing, Shira, nice to see you too. Um, showing the Throwing the rock into the water and expecting me to have a response. And I looked at her, went, "Uh-huh." And she got huffed and she took out the rock and she threw the rock back in the water and expected a response from me. I had no idea what she was expecting or what she was thinking. To her, though, it was really, really important. It was like this light bulb had gone off in her head. She was 2 years old, and she had been speaking since she was 1.5 and running when she was 7 months old. So she was just a very active kid. I swear she was running laps in my womb. Um, so she picked up the rock again and she looked very carefully at me and she's like, "Watch, Mummy, pay attention." So she threw the rock into the water all the time watching me. And I said, "I'm sorry. I don't know what you want, what you're expecting." And she took the rock up again and she said, and she threw the rock and she said, "The rock moves the water out of the way." She had observed a scientific phenomenon at 2.5 years old. And I was oblivious to this brilliant exploration and sudden achievement that she had. She had seen something for the first time, recognized a cause and effect, and wanted to share that. That mattered. That mattered in that it told me how her brain was functioning, that she could see and interpret things in a way that I possibly had overlooked for many years. Because for me, it was old hat. Yep. I never actually thought about those things. I just knew it happened. This is where we as parents have to be less important in ourselves and have humility and be humbled by our children. Hey, darling, so good to see you. Um, so this is the way that we need to be with our kids. Instead of shoving or spoon feeding stuff at them, watch them, give them opportunities to do things. So another thing, my 1-year-old grandson loved going into the kitchen and dumping all the potatoes out of the bag. Normally, we'd say, "Stop playing with the potatoes. You're making a mess." But no, not in this unschooling home. And darling, you could add so much. Please don't hesitate to comment in there and tell us your stories because you've been around with me for a long time. We've both been doing this for decades, decades, decades. So, potatoes, back to the potatoes in the kitchen. He'd dump the bag of potatoes out and he would put them all back one by one. I don't know if he was counting them in his head or not, but it was process. It was dexterity. It was, he was thinking. He knew what he was doing, and then he took them out one by one. and he'd make shapes with them on the floor. He'd make piles of them and see if he could get them to go on top of each other. He played with those potatoes for an hour. His brain was doing something important developmentally. And that's what we as parents need to recognize in our kids. They're not just playing. They might be realizing something for the first time. A connection in their brain while they are playing could be something crucial to their development. I recently found out that there is a university course on inter um, interpreting play. So there's a course, and I think it's the University of not British Columbia, New Brunswick, and it is called Interpreting Play for Curriculum Development, an exploration of the literature on play, including play as reflective pedagogy. Now, I want to come back to that in a minute. A variety of theoretical perspectives will be brought to the interpretation of children's play. The teacher's role in creating physical and social environments that facilitate cognitive, emotional, social, spiritual, and physical growth will be examined. We are the anthropologists with our children. We observe what they do. And I want to bring this out is pedagogy means a top down, somebody telling somebody else. So you have a teacher at the front of a class, that's pedagogy. Andragogy is the next step, freer, where you say, how do I do this? And somebody else will say, I don't know, let's go find out. That in a big way is what unschooling is. Your children see things, and instead of just listen to me and I will tell you what this is as the authority, you bring their understanding to their journey of learning and the love of learning, because that is so much more important than the stuff that they learn. So learning how to learn is huge, and being involved in them and being interested in what they're doing, that creates the relationship. Oh, my darling, part of me wishes we could make the shift from and change the term unschooling to life learning. Absolutely. And if you go to, and it will become more popular the more people use it. Um, if you go to Unschooling School, the website, you will find you can create a free learner certificate for yourself or for your kids. And they can like feel, yes, I have decided, I've graduated from, some sort of schooling to being a free learner. And life learning is so crucial. So getting back to that pedagogy, I try to get away from the pedagogy. Not saying it's bad. Like if you want to learn, like my daughter being completely life learning and no organized schooling or grades or anything, um, she is now in her very first chemistry class at college. And she's helping her peers because she understands the concepts, even if she didn't know the technical terms, she understood the context from real life and is helping them. And she's in the top of her class, and they've just told her they're putting her name up for to be offered a job as a lab tech with the college because she's at the top of her class. So, having never gone to school, she is doing so well, and it's not unusual. Not unusual at all, because life and all those concepts that we have that people put in textbooks and workbooks, they come from real life. They don't exist in a vacuum. They don't exist just in a school or in a curriculum. Um, so love that website, declaring yourself a free learner. And I do so with the students that I have in my unschool, which is exactly this what I'm talking about. Get to know the child, get to know what they're interested in, help them, be a resource for them, be a support system for them. Um, yes, and your son started at 13, job shadowing that neonatal surgeon, if I'm correct. And that's so I tell your story every day to people who have no confidence and no stress. Like they have all the stress about their kids having to jump through all these hoops when they don't really have to. They just have to think outside of the box. And we can be there to support them. So, oh, darling, it's so nice to see you. Um, so let me talk about things like puzzles. If your kids love doing puzzles, I had a kid who loved doing them upside down. She said doing them with the picture up was too easy. What does that tell you? Like, there are many kids that love doing puzzles, doing them upside down, no picture to go by, no colors to connect, just the shapes. This child was also super interested in doing mazes. All she did all day was mazes. And and she would then create them. If she ran out of mazes to do, she'd create her own mazes out of everything. So her thinking processes were complicated to a degree that as a, regular parent, I probably never would have seen. But that was so important and valuable to her that it created pathways in her brain that opened up so many other things that she could learn. And she successfully went to college. But not that that's the end result for everybody. I always mention a book called Skip College. Its second chapter is by John Taylor Gatto, my mentor. And I would highly advise looking at both sides. Is post-secondary really that important? Is it what I need, or can I get what I want this other way? So let's talk about some more specifics about what you might see your child doing or be doing with your child. A trip to the library. Is that important? Schools do it. My nephew did that with his school 3 times. And until he quit school at 13 and started free learning and being supported and encouraged and accepted for what he was interested in, he never paid any attention when he went to the library with the school. It wasn't until he had something of interest to himself that he wanted to learn how to use the library. So that involved research, learning how to find what he was looking at. I mean, we've got the Dewey Decimal System. We've got different areas of the library, understanding how we segment things into different areas, different subjects, how we find what we're looking for. Um, Silent, sustained reading, first time in his life. He wouldn't look at a book unless it was a comic book, and those are valuable too. I'm not saying any of these other things aren't valuable. So he started reading these books, and then he'd put them back, and he didn't know how to find them again. So then he learned how to make a bibliography. He didn't know it was a bibliography. We just called it a list of books and where they were in the library. And he was able to do this amazing project on his own outside of school that replicated the Boer War on a kitchen table. And he took, like, we moved the table into the basement and it's a big area. Oh my gosh. He never do any math at all, except that now that he was out of school and studying the Boer War, he was making this model on the table, and he had the he was calculating the trajectory of the weaponry. He was rolling dice and calculating all sorts of things that were relevant to what he was doing that he never ever would have done at school. Um, the other resource identification, right? What's important, what's valuable, not what's not. Um, okay, next thing. And there's probably lots more. If you have more things that you want to add, please drop them in the comments. I'd love that. uh, Field trip to the store, or we all go shopping. I would give my kids different lists of what we needed, and they would be responsible to go and get it for us. And that turned into, as they got older, asking them which do they think was a better deal, comparative shopping, comparing the ingredients. That's huge in understanding, especially now in sustainability and the types of things that are healthy, wellness, all that. I am gonna just mute my mic for 1 second because I have to blow my nose. Back. All right. Next, so we have in the family trip to the grocery store, we've got um, consumer math, health and hygiene instruction. I don't like to use the word instruction, but health and hygiene awareness, geography, because there's all sorts of different things from different countries. So sometimes you'll have international aisles at the store, um, consumer education, time and money management. Absolutely. Um, and going to different grocery stores, like if you go to an Asian grocery store or an African grocery store, and try new things. I wanted to show this about a young person who, and I'm gonna bring it up here, and so important. All right. So getting back to our list here, um, trip to a homeschool support group. Well, a lot of families are now beginning to get back to normal activities, meeting at the library. We have soccer every Wednesday morning here in the Niagara Peninsula, and the kids love it. And darling, if you know anybody up there that wants to start, or if they haven't got it anymore. They used to. We used to have 77 homeschooled kids coming out to our soccer every Wednesday morning in London, Ontario. I'm now in the Niagara Peninsula, so I started it here because it wasn't happening. If you find that there's something that you or your child really want to do and you it doesn't exist, let me give you some advice that my grandfather gave me. If you don't find what you want, make it. There's nothing holding you back. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. Just do it. Um, Playing outside, low organized physical education, even taking the dog for a walk, animal husbandry. Um, let's see, arts and crafts, chores, um, Legos, Connects, or any building blocks. Those have crucial, helpful development um, processes in the brain. Let's see what here. Going to the dentist. We had an accidental field trip to the dentist, and that means we were walking through a mall that had a dentist. It was actually a denturist. I didn't know that. The door was a little open. The sound was going whir, 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 whir. And one of the kids said, "What are they doing?" And I said, "I don't know. Let's ask," in my andragogical way. So she knocked on the door, and the gentleman came to the door, and she asked, "What are you doing?" And he was so delighted to share how he was making dentures for people and the process that he had. So a lot of people would be delighted to be asked what they're doing and to demonstrate it. Okay, so if walking outside, it's all beneficial. Crawling, the process of crawling, babies crawling, the back, the left and the front, left, right, that motion actually has been proven very important in brain development. Drawing. I know a young lady right now, she's 5 years old, and she wants to be in medicine, and she is already drawing all sorts of medical things and parts of the body and understanding them and coloring them, doing things that are far, what you wouldn't expect to give a 5-year-old to do. She's doing by choice. So when we look at our kids that are, and I've got a list of things here, um, video games. A lot of people complain that their kids are only interested in video games. Next week, I am going to look specifically at video games and how important they are to future and current development in teen and young people's brains. I used to think that letting my kids watch TV was, oh, you're not doing anything, you're just watching TV. Well, my youngest taught me a lesson by taking one of those TV shows that she was watching. It happened to be a science show, and she did a science fair project for it, which garnered her a letter and a box of goodies from the um, head um, director of planetary sciences at NASA. So we can talk a lot more. This could go a lot longer because we've got things like playing Monopoly and um, bicycling, 4-H activities, The health channel, even watching the weather channel is valuable. Let's see, pen pals and email sharing with people, guitar, just playing with the guitar because you're already a musician and you're getting better. So when people say, "What do I have to do to be a musician, to be a good guitarist?" Practice, right? So if they're constantly playing with whatever it is, encourage them. Travel. I think everybody said if money was no object, you could travel. Well, one of the ways to do this without having lots of money is going on to GeoGuessr or City Guesser online. And you can, they give you places from like Google Maps, and you have to try and figure out where you are. So sometimes it's easier in the city because there's stores you can look up. But the different areas, go on Google Earth. Look at Go for a street view of somewhere you would love to go or just want to learn about. I can't begin to go into all the things because all of your kids are different and they're all interested in different things. And I want to really focus and um, I can't stress it enough. Everything matters. Don't worry about the missing things. Don't worry about gaps. They don't exist. Your children are developing in their own way and their own speed, at their own pace, and their own brains. No child learns exactly the same way. And if you have more than one child, you'll know that. All right, I am going to go. I have another thing at 4 o'clock. So if you have any questions or any additions to what I've said, tell me your stories. I'd love to hear them. Our audience would love to hear them. And Darlin and everybody else here, thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you know that whatever your kids are doing, whatever you're doing, it matters. You matter, and keep doing it.